Hey church family, hope you're doing well and hope you enjoy this video. In Matthew 19 verse 26, Jesus speaks into his disciples' perplexity and struggle with trying to understand how anyone's going to get saved. They can see there's so many barriers and so many things that are stopping people coming to faith. And Jesus says something very simple. He says, with man, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. Next week, we're going to be fasting and praying. We're going to be fasting from Monday to Friday. We're inviting you into that. Love you to be part of it. If you can fast a meal, if you can fast a day, if you can fast the whole week, do so. Do watch Simon Morgan's previous videos, help you do it really well. We want you to be blessed doing this, but we're doing that for one very simple reason, that the great task that God has called us to make him known on the earth, is impossible with man. It doesn't matter what gifts you have or I have. It doesn't matter how our budget is. It doesn't matter what brainstorming group we do or what clever things we put together structure-wise. It's impossible with man. Those things might help, but they're not going to make it possible. It's only God. And we want to go where it's impossible. And so we're specifically asking you to pray over that week about three things: about youth and young people, about leadership, and about a church building. But a bit more on that later. Firstly, a bit of newsy stuff. And we've been challenged recently about loving one another. I hope you've heard that. Duncan spoke a couple Sundays ago really about a sense he's had of almost a revival of love coming. That sounds like a good revival, yeah? A revival of us really loving one another, as Jesus prayed in John 17, that not only would we have the same love in us that the Father has for Jesus, but having that we will be one with him and one with each other as he and the Father are one. What a description of church. And we can find that actually loving one another often comes down to the bits and pieces and the nitty-gritty. And just one area I'd love to invite you into loving one another better in is communication, and specifically around Church Suite. Now, over COVID, I was a member of a Halo Recreation Centre here in Highworth, and would particularly use a swimming pool. And over COVID and stuff, and as they brought things back in, and of course it was all very segregated, and you had your own private area where you get changed and all those sort of things, they brought out an app. And they brought out this app, and it didn't matter how I felt about it. It didn't matter whether I was particularly savvy with it or not. If I wanted to go swimming, I would have to book on the app. And it's still true today. We've got this thing called Church Suite. It's not our only mode of communication. I appreciate that for some of you, it might be difficult or might be a challenge. That's a great opportunity to love. You know, we've asked Lizzie Hares to, on behalf of the church, run that and put time and effort into that. And we want to respect and honour her, don't we? For the time she puts in, whether you think it's the best thing since sliced bread or not, it's there, and it's a really useful thing for helping us know what's going on, helping us find out each other's contact details. You might talk to someone on Sunday and want to get hold of them. If we're on Church Suite, can we put our details on there? It's a lot safer than previous methods we used to do. We used to produce a paper one, paper sort of sheet with everyone's addresses and phone numbers, and they can easily go missing. It's all in one place. It's secure. And loving one another often just looks like really simple things, like maybe taking a bit of a plunge. If you're having a few difficulties, have a chat to Lizzie, but do it nicely. You know, leading is fun, wonderful, and can be hard at times. And we want to just honour people, don't we? And so ask for help if you need it. But we really just would encourage you to make use of it. The more people make use of it, the better. There's things, sign up stuff, and it is going well, and lots of people are, so thank you for doing that. So if you are particularly finding it hard, we want to love you, but do come and do have a chat. And we just have to be a bit humble sometimes about it. But in the end, guys, it's this stuff that's rubber hit the road time, isn't it? There might be other things for you and other things for me, where I might be all sunshine and rainbows about everything else, but it's those little bits, isn't it? Often around communication or feeling left out or not knowing about something or not quite understanding it. There are easy areas where we find ourselves not loving one another. We're called to love. And so can I encourage you in that? Another thing I just want to flag is missions. And we'll be doing more locally and nationally next year, but also just wanted to flag international stuff. You know, before COVID, we'd really motoring towards doing some stuff in Moldova, and it's taken a long time for that to, in a sense, be able to be picked back up. In a couple of weeks' time, Sharon will be sharing about Moldova, someone we connected with years ago out there. And we'll be doing a We Will Stay with a fantastic couple, Leo and Sam, in Moldova in December, and another couple in January. So we're hoping and believing that there might be some mission trips to Moldova next year, and there might be some opportunity with Cambodia as well, with Molly and Steve out there. And as well, alongside that, we're continuing to build a relationship with YWAM in Ålesund, Norway. The team are coming here in January, so mission is bringing not only fruit in the nations, but bringing it back to us. So just wanted to flag that. That might be something that pricks your ears. Do come and talk, and do be really aware of stuff that's communicated in line with all of that. And also, just want to feedback quickly about CAP. So next year, CAP in Highworth celebrates 10 years. It's been a decade since we set up our centre. Isn't that amazing? And we're just so thrilled, the team here, of all they've done. We're very excited about Claire and her new role, and Ian's getting up to speed now and filling in the great work that Catherine and Ioli have done, and Ioli will continue to do, which is amazing. But just wanted to let you know, in terms of CAP, was something that was set up by Highworth Churches Together. So we set it up along with St Michael's, along with the Methodist Church and the URC. We have run it together over the years, and finance has been put in, and support and befrienders and all those sort of things. But there's been a certain sort of administration piece that we've filled in for, because Highworth Churches Together isn't a legal entity. And especially as we hit COVID, got mentioned a lot in this video, the cracks sort of showed. Before that, each church was in a place of strength, and we had a strong relationship together. But as COVID came in, of course, it was really disrupting. And especially as their ministers changed, we've seen that actually CAP needs to find a proper home administration-wise, which can then release the churches to be doing all the good stuff of rescuing people, of loving people, and sharing Jesus with them. So we've taken the step, as Church Together, they've agreed that for the time being, HCC is covering that part. So it's come under our charitable status. We were already providing safeguarding support, and we were already paying staff through that. And so it's moved over. That doesn't mean that CAP is now HCC. We're really clear that we are doing this together, and this is something we are doing to serve. But just wanted to let you know, Church Together are looking then at what we do next, and do we form a separate charity, those sort of things. So really appreciate your prayers, and especially as we embark in a really new season of relationship with the other churches. And again, a great opportunity to love and be thankful for our amazing trustees, for Janet, for Joe, for Rich, and for Paul, and for Lizzie, who provides administrative support for them. Love them well, and thank them for all the work they've put in to make that happen. And so finally, let's talk prayer and fasting week. So starting from Monday next week, we'll be fasting for those 5 days, and we're finishing with a night of prayer. So Paul and Simon Morgan have embraced, I think, they're going to pray all night. And they very kindly said we could join in. So that evening from 7 p.m. through to 8 a.m, and if you're still alive at 8 a.m, you can have breakfast. We'll be praying in the upper room. It'll be open, it'll be manned the whole time, and you can come for all or any. So feel free to set your alarm for 3 a.m. and rock up and see what God's doing. Hey, I know that's a challenge, but actually it's something really common. One of the first churches I served was actually in Malawi, and church about 1,500 people, and they every Friday night prayed all night. It was just the thing they did. And so can I invite you into that and just encourage you to pray next week and maybe take a bit of a plunge and pop along for a bit. And you never know, you might get caught up and stay a few hours. But please hear me, that prayer night, you can go for 10 minutes, an hour, 10 hours. You don't have to turn up on the hour, those sort of things. Just rock up and get involved. And so next week, we're asking you to specifically pray about 3 things. Firstly, young people. Again, funny, it's coming through as a theme. COVID was probably one of the things that hit young people the hardest. I think it was incredibly hard at being at school and then suddenly not at school. It's very confusing. And as well, I think for a lot of young people who may come to church because parents do, and then being there, actually, you're in the atmosphere, you're in the presence of God, and it has an effect. Of course, that was removed. And so it's been a tough time in terms of youth. And actually, we want to see it go the other way. I believe that God has put a mandate on us as HCC to be a church of leaders, which in the kingdom looks like being mums and dads. And we're going to talk about that more on a video next week. But in terms of being mums and dads, the only point that he is loading our church with mums and dads. And I hope you're aware of that. God prophesied that some 12 years ago. That's what would happen. And it's happened and happening. We've got an incredible, amazing group of people. Mums and dads are there to have lots of kids. And we're believing for God to do something great in the youth in our area. And so can we be praying for breakthrough in young people? Can we be praying for us as a church? You know, Deb especially and John and others have served and are serving our young people. But we want to know from heaven what radical steps we need to take in this season to see God reach out to young people. And whether that's employing people or whatever, I don't know. But we don't want to miss the opportunity right now because, as we shared a couple of Sundays ago, the situation out there is dark and is very difficult, and that's where God wants to shine. And so can we be praying for youth? Secondly, can we be praying for leadership? Hopefully you've caught up on what I shared 2 Sundays ago. I'm going to talk more about that in a video cast next week and at Sunday in a week's time. But can you be praying for us as leaders and just for the way forward? We want to discover in this season, gleaning from the past but not held by it, whether it's our past or Bible past, what is right for us structurally. We've been releasing lots and lots of leaders, and I'll talk about more next week. But what else do we need in terms of structurally to help things happen well, be a blessing, but not to take centre stage, but to release more of what God's doing? And I find that hard. I'll talk more about that next week, like I said, but that please be praying around leadership and around clarity and just a really, a common sense of a way forward that's brilliant. Finally, building. We know this year we've been starting to talk about, came very prophetically through 2 Brazilian guys that about a building for us, and we're on that journey and we need a radical breakthrough. And it's something that could absorb so much time and so much effort and so much energy. And we go back to Alison Goddard's word, and her word to us, the first church service we had at Warnford School, was all about God's got it. We don't need to worry, and He'll release it. And so we believe this is the time, so we're praying for God to release that. And as we do that, and especially as we fast, we humble ourselves. I'm sure you've got ideas, I've got ideas. God doesn't really care about our ideas. We care about His ideas. Whatever He wants for us, wherever it is, whatever it looks like, whether it ticks my boxes or not, we just want what He wants because He knows what He's doing and He knows where He's taking us. And I'll finish, therefore, talking about a guy called George Muller. George Muller was a German who changed our nation, contemporary and a friend actually of Dickens. He drove a wedge through the horror that was orphans and workhouses in the nation. He reached out with the love of Christ. And please, as you're fasting next week, do read Isaiah 58 to find out the fast that God loves. But as he did that, he did it not only because of the plight of the orphan and the condition of love upon us as Christians, but he also did it because he wanted to prove to the church and to the world, that God could be taken at his word. That simply by praying and believing, all things were possible. And we started by reading out something that Jesus said, with God, all things are possible. And I don't know if you believe that, but the point of this isn't for it to remain in here. It's not there to give you a bit of a pick-me-up in the morning, although it does. It's there to be lived out today. And we're to take this and to say, God, are you still a God of your word? Are you still a God of covenant? Are you a God who promise? Are you the God that things are still possible with, that with man are impossible? And as you pray next week, the point of prayer is to bring us to faith, to believe that God could, as Andrew shared on Sunday, where a church had turned down an offer of a couple £1,000, I think it was, for CAP, but they'd have to drop the sort of Jesus edge to suddenly releasing £200,000. Is he the God who could just provide? Is he the God that if he says something, he'll do it? Will he give us the wineskin for the wine, for the new wine that he's releasing? God wants to bring us to a place of faith. That's where we're going. And that's the challenge that we embrace next week. God bless you all.